Rabbits and Cats by Lu Xun, translated and read by Peter Rambo. During the summer, San, my younger brother's wife, who lives in the courtyard behind us, bought a pair of white rabbits for her children. It was clear the rabbits hadn't been separated from their mother for very long. It didn't matter that I was of another species. I could clearly sense their innocence and naivety. Still, when their long pink ears perked up and they twitched their little noses, there was suspicion in their eyes too. After all, this world of people must have seemed very strange, and lacked the familiarity and comfort of the place where they'd been born. One could easily bought these rabbits very cheaply during a temple fair, but my brother's wife had gone to a store directly and paid far more for them. Of course, the children were very pleased. They called out excitedly and gathered around to see them. The adults gathered around too, and also a small dog named S. He forced his way through the crowd, sniffed the rabbits, sneezed, and then backed off again. "Hey," Sam called out. "S, you listen to me. You will not bite those bunnies." She grabbed him by the nose, and S quickly backed off. He never did harm those rabbits. The rabbits were usually kept in the courtyard behind our rear window. I heard this was because they liked to eat wallpaper and nibble at the furniture when they were kept inside. A wild mulberry bush grew there, and when the berries fell, the rabbits would eat as many as they could, leaving the spinach left out for them alone. Whenever crows and magpies flew down to try and take their share, the rabbits would poise themselves on their back legs and spring up at them like snowflakes, flying back up into the sky. The birds were soon frightened away, and after a few assaults, never tried again. Sam wasn't worried about the crows and magpies. She knew they just wanted to be fed too. The real threat was a large black cat that often stalked the rear wall with murderous eyes. Fortunately, S the dog and the cat were natural enemies, otherwise the rabbits would have been seriously threatened. The children would often pick them up, the rabbits' ears straight and noses twitching. They seemed calm when they were held in cup hands, but as soon as an opening appeared between the fingers, they would quickly slip out. At night, the rabbits slept in a small wooden box stuffed with hay, below the eaves of the rear window. It went on like this for several months, until the rabbits began to dig for themselves. They dug incredibly fast, scraping with their front paws and kicking the dirt out behind them with their back legs. Before even half a day had passed, they had dug a very deep hole. Everyone was pleased, and after looking carefully over one of the rabbits, it was clear that she'd become pregnant. Sam became very stern and warned the children that they couldn't pick them up anymore. My mother was really pleased too. She said she'd like to watch the rabbits growing up outside her own window. Later, the two rabbits moved into the burrow they'd made. At first, they would sometimes come out to eat something, but then they stopped venturing out at all. We weren't sure if they had enough food to live on stored in the burrow or whether they'd stopped eating. After 10 days or so, Sam told me she'd seen the rabbits come out, but it appeared that none of the newborns had survived. Clearly the female had milk, but she didn't appear to be returning to the burrow to feed her young. Sam grew despondent, even angry, but there was nothing she could do. One windless, sunny day, when even the tree leaves were still, I suddenly heard the sound of many people laughing. I followed the sound until I found them gathered at the back of Sam's window. There was a tiny rabbit jumping up in the air. It was even smaller than the bunnies Sam had first bought, and already it had an incredible leap. The children started talking over each other, trying to be the first to tell me that they'd seen the little bunny come out of the burrow before shrinking back in, presumably the younger sibling of the one already leaping. The small bunny began collecting grass, yet the parents, clearly disapproving, kept snatching it back again, without even eating it themselves. The sound of the children laughing at this startled the small rabbit, and he fled back into the burrow. His parents followed, one of them pushing him in with his legs, while the others scraped at the loose dirt at the entrance, sealing them in. After seeing this, the courtyard grew even livelier, and people would often come by the back window to see what the rabbits were doing. However, after this we didn't see the adults or the young rabbits for several days. The weather had been cool and overcast, and although Sam was worried the cat had killed the rabbits, I told her it was probably just the weather, and once it brightened up again they'd reappear. But when the sun came out, the rabbits didn't. Almost everybody forgot about them. Only Sam remembered, for it had been her who'd kept feeding them spinach every day. A little while later she found another burrow under the wall in the courtyard, and when she looked inside she saw the faint trace of paw prints. They looked too big to belong to the rabbits. She worried perhaps they belonged to the sinister-looking cat that stalked the low-lying walls. She struggled to sum up the courage, but in the end decided to get a sickle to dig up the burrow herself. She knew it was unlikely, but still hoped that the rabbits might be down there. Unfortunately, all she found at the bottom was a patch of rotten straw and a few stray white hairs. The straw had probably been spread when the rabbits were about to give birth. Apart from this, the place was cold and empty. There was no trace of the tiny white rabbit, or her brother who had leapt so wonderfully in the courtyard. Feeling overcome with anger and disappointment, she felt there was no choice but excavate another hole at the bottom of the wall. As soon as she started digging, the two large rabbits came out of the burrow. At first she was excited, believing they must have switched burrows. But then she saw at the bottom another patch of straw, and 7 sleeping, tiny newborns. Their skin was still raw and pink, and looking closely, she could see that none had yet opened their eyes. She understood now. The first 2 rabbits had been killed, just as she'd feared. She prevented anything more from happening to the young rabbits, and moved the 7 young into a box in her room. She made sure the mother was put in with them too, so she could continue to feed them. Sam was angry with the cat, but she also felt some blame lay with the rabbits. There must have been more than 2 in that litter. There must have been more than just 2 in that litter. Those too weak to fight for the milk must have died. The mother had probably not nursed them evenly, and the 2 that survived were the ones that we'd seen. This made sense, as among the 7 new ones we had, 2 appeared weak and underfed. So, this time, whenever she had time, Sam made sure to help the rabbits feed evenly, giving each a turn. My mother said she'd never seen anyone make so much trouble over raising rabbits. Sam was worthy of an article in a mother's magazine. Everyone was happy to see the rabbits begin to thrive again, but from that moment, I found myself starting to feel very despondent. In the lamplight at night, I would think on the lives of those 2 small rabbits who died, and think on the fact that nothing or no one had even known they'd been here, that they'd gone, that they had come and passed and left no trace. S had not even barked. It brought back a memory from a long time ago. I'd risen early and seen a mass of pigeon feathers gathered under a tree. Obviously, it was all that was left after an eagle had killed and eaten them. That afternoon, someone came and swept it all up, and there was nothing to indicate that life had been extinguished on that spot. I thought too once on how I'd seen a small dog crushed under the wheels of a cart. It was dying, and when I came back later that day, there was nothing of it left. Everyone walked by that spot, completely oblivious to the fact that something living had died there. One summer night, I heard the drawn-out struggle of a fly as it tried to escape a spider. It died and it was eaten. I didn't feel a thing. No one else seemed to care either. Perhaps nature is to blame. Too much has been created, and now too much must be destroyed. I hear the sound of 2 cats fighting outside my window. Lu Xun, is that you fighting with the cats? My mother called. No, they're doing it to each other. Why would I be fighting cats? My mother was accusing me of hurting the cats, probably because she thought I was trying to avenge the rabbits. It was known in the family that I considered cats my enemy, and it's true that I had taken a swipe at them before, especially when they were mating. There was nothing inherently abject about them mating, just did they have to make such a noise about it? It was impossible to sleep when they were at it, and I didn't see why they had to make such a scene. And anyway, after that black cat killed those 2 young rabbits, it seemed that I had just cause to retaliate. My mother was too forgiving. That's why I answered her so frankly, rudely even. Nature is too reckless and wanton, but if I cannot fight it, I suppose I must aid it. That black cat cannot continue to prowl by the rear courtyard any longer. With just resolution, and I thought on the bottle hidden in the book cabinet, and the potassium cyanide it contained.